technical difficulty. It was
It's
like,
okay. It's okay. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we're here.
Yeah, I know, right? Look, I'm wearing my pump shirt just for you today. Here's my
yes,
pumping shirt.
kind of how I'm feeling right now, just like Skeletor.
I know, right? Well, this is so cool. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this. I have been hoping and longing for this for a very long time because I love you. I'm a fangirl. I think you're awesome,
Really?
and I love what you're doing on your page, and I love what you're doing with pumps, and I'm really excited just to talk about this information. I think it's just so important.
Absolutely. And I'm really excited to talk to you too, because I can't wait to get your opinion. I feel like everyone always like, hey, Kristen, which is the best? What do you think? And, at the end of the day, my opinion is my opinion.
Right.
So I've said it before, like I do find that my opinion is usually pretty on par with like everybody else's. So I'm not like completely left field, but there are absolutely differences in my opinions versus some others. So it's really awesome. And I'm really excited to talk to you about this because I can't wait to hear your opinions and how you rate some of these pumps.
Well, when I'm talking about pumps now, the language that I'm using is all, most, many, some, few, or none, right? And that's really how I talk about language in general for lactation of recommendations, advice, all, some, all, many, most, some, few, none. And I really feel like when we're talking about pumps, it's the same language, but there is no all or none.
Yeah.
Because in my experience, there is no one size fits all. You will never have perfect pump technology that all people can use. And there's also no pump that we can say no one can use because there's always that like one outlier, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, there's like 5 people that can use that. And yay, for those 5 people, they can actually have something that works. Mm-hmm. So really, when you and I are talking about these pumps, the language that we're using is like most people, many people, some people, and few people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the categories in my mind when I'm talking about these pumps is people shouldn't feel like discouraged if they happen to be in the few category or if they happen to be in the some category. And that's what gets really frustrating when you're dumping hundreds of dollars into these pumps is if you happen to be the some or the few instead of the many or the most, that's where it really gets frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I think for me the most difficult part about reviewing these pumps because I never want anyone to think that I'm like coming on here as like an end all be all. Like this is it's the only pump that you'll ever use because that's not the case. And I respect and I enjoy seeing people's feedback. Sometimes it's kind of like, well, you're wrong on that. I'm like, well, I apologize. I don't mean to be wrong. Like that's not my intention. I understand it's not gonna like my opinion isn't gonna suit everyone's needs, but it's nice too to hear that something that I think is possibly awful works for someone else because that just means that that particular person is succeeding in their breastfeeding journey and that's all that matters, right?
Exactly. And that's where I think that language is helpful, right? Of many people find or some people find because then it includes more people of like, hey, in my opinion, many people do really well on this pump, but there's going to be some that will never respond to this because of breast tissue, nipple tissue, so many other factors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, cool. I'm really excited. I wrote my list yesterday and I have a collection of good and bad.
I got mine over here too.
I forgot one pump that it's been a rat race of a morning, but it's okay.
No, that's okay because honestly, I went to get some of my favorite pumps and realized I gave them to patients because they're good pumps. So I'm like, yeah, I don't have a visual for all the pumps because I'm like, I give too many pumps away. Let's talk shop real quick so people understand our language. In my mind, there's 4 categories of pumps, right? There's your hand pumps, your primary pumps, your portable pumps, and your wearable pumps. And then obviously there's your silicone pumps, but we're not even going to like mess with those. Are there any other categories that I'm missing?
No, I agree with you. The only thing I would add, and I say this often, is the portable and the wearables. I believe that there's a bit of a crossover from time to time, depending on how you apply them. So, but
I would also agree primary and portable. There are very few portable pumps that I'm like, we could cross this into primary depending on the situation. So yeah, I think it's a Venn diagram where you have interlocking circles.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. I totally agree. Cool.
Let's talk then about primary pumps. Do you want to discuss what a primary pump is when we use that language?
Yeah, absolutely. So, primary pump is going to be exactly as it sounds, the pump that you are going to respond the best to that is going to most effectively remove your breast milk. So I I think primary pump, like you've said, it's not about the size. I've seen people say like, oh, small pumps could never be your primary. And I completely disagree with that, because I, for one, have succeeded in multiple times, because I've been breastfeeding for like over 50 months, or actually pumping, breastfeeding, the whole 9 yards. And I have found success with large pumps and small pumps. So at the end of the day, you just want to make sure that you're choosing, and you don't, that's kind of a sticky situation there, because you don't know if you're choosing what's right, or what, how you're going to respond to something. But ultimately, you're looking for the best breast pump that your body is going to respond best to, that you're going to use repeatedly over and over again throughout the day.
Right.
That's going to be like what you're relying on.
Well, and let's be real too. Primary pumps for an exclusive pumper could be very different than a primary pump for a 40-hour week working mom, compared to a primary pump for someone who's only pumping once a week for a date night, right? Yeah. So again,
that's
language
yeah.
matters when we're talking to pumpers, and that's why it's not one size fits all, and why it can be dangerous when we're just getting these little snippets and sound bites, right? But let's talk about in the working mom and or exclusive pumping in terms of primary, because I really do feel if you have occasional pumpers, they can almost get away with almost anything. So let's just hone primary pumps to working moms and exclusive pumpers. So tell me, what's your favorite primary pump?
Let me get my list out. Okay, so I have absolutely grown to love the Opera Mom.
The Unimom.
No. Unimom
Opera.
Plus. I'm running on minimal sleep.
I love
it. Thank you very much. Unimom Opera Plus. I love this pump. I used it when I had my last singleton over about 18 months ago. I was primarily using my where's she at? Pumpables Genie Advance, and I loved it. But then I received this pump, and I still love this pump, don't get me wrong, but I found that this pump, it just like carried a different oomph, and I use it every morning to empty, every night before I went to bed, and then in between here and there. And then of course I like fell back on my Pumpables Genie Advance when the time was needed. I found them interchangeable, but I love that the Opera has dual motors. I don't necessarily need that, but I love that that's an option. And I brought this guy up here because it's pretty similar as far as dual motors go, which I absolutely can respect. And I have talked to several moms who have found that very beneficial. Like if you have nipple damage on one side and you kind of like reduce the strength there, or like, like there's different needs for it, and you can operate them independently. So you can turn one off, only use it as a single, like if you're parallel pumping or whatever. But at the end of the day, this thing is truly a bowling ball. It would break my toe if I dropped it, and this here, rechargeable, portable. So you've got all the bells and whistles of a dual pump to keep you successful, but you're not locked to the wall, which for me was huge. And I'm not a big Spectra fan, but I did like that pump. But this guy here was just like, I just love it. I think it's primary.
Awesome. Yeah, I would say it's so interesting because when I was pumping, I pumped my last, I weaned 2 years ago. So when I was pumping on the old school pumps. My favorite in the day was the Hygenia Enjoy, which like nobody's heard of, because it had knobs that you could turn to really synchronize cycle and vacuum speed. So if you had asked me 4 years ago, what's your favorite pump? It would have been the Hygenia Enjoy and then the Spectra. I haven't used the Unimom Opera, but I've heard that feedback consistently from my patients, and it is on the top of my list for sure.
It's a phenomenal pump. And someone had just asked, does it have vibration? That for me is huge. I don't like vibration. That is how I started my entire breastfeeding journey with the Spectra S1 6 years ago. And I grew to hate vibration. And I will say that there is vibration in the SG, but in my review, because I do compare, actually, I have a comparison of both of these pumps against each other. And I find that the SG vibration is slightly different than the S1, so it's a little more tolerable for me. But when it comes to the Unimom Opera, it does not have vibration. So for me, I was able to get everything I wanted out of this pump minus the vibration, which made it that much better for me to use.
Yeah. Well, let's touch on that second when you mentioned dual motors, because some people don't understand that. Most breast pumps that you can buy in the cheapo range, $100 to $200, $300 range, a lot of them will have one motor, meaning that the flanges share a pump. So you have to either pump with both sides or plug off the tubing so that you pump on one side. So it has a single motor in it. Spectra S1 has that. The Medela pump and style has that. What Kristen's talking about are dual motors, meaning there's two motors inside, so each breast gets a motor, so you get more bang for your buck, which means you can customize, usually on those pumps, how fast they're sucking. So like the Medela Symphony, the Cadillac of hospital pumps that you get, has two motors in it. It's why you can pump on one side and see the flange move and the other one can be off and it still works. But on the Spectra, if you only have one side on, you're not going to get movement because you have to have suction on both to have it work.
Yes, right. All or nothing, really, right?
Yeah.
Either the pump, if it's not if it doesn't have a suction on both sides, it's not going to operate properly. And that's right. What you're talking, you're pinching her up.
Yes. Well, and when you're talking sharing motors, when you have a single motor, you actually get stronger suction if you pump on only one side, because you're then not sharing the motor between two breasts. So it absolutely makes a difference. I'll have some moms that are like, I love the Spectra, but it's not strong enough. So I find myself pumping on just one side. And I'm like, yeah, because now you're not sharing the motor between two breasts.
It's so interesting you say that, and this is completely off topic, but I didn't, honestly, I'll be honest, I didn't realize this, that when a pump is ranked for its strength capacity, it's based on the motor, but not necessarily double pumping.
Correct.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, the science behind it. So yeah, I mean, I could go on that topic all day.
Yeah. We could do that another day.
We can talk about it another day.
That's a good one.
So I tend to recommend the Unimom Opera. I am a big Spectra fan because the Hygenia Enjoy is not available anymore. They changed their pump. I haven't tried the Hygienia's new pump. I'd be interested to trying their new one because they basically took their big Enjoy and they shrunk it down into a portable pump. But the what was I going to say? The other one that's hit or miss for me is the Motif Luna. I find it's like the little sister of the Spectra. So I find this is one that is, some people find that they like it because it's gentler. So my moms that have really sensitive nipples that don't like a really firm, strong tug can do okay on that Luna. But my favorites are the Unimom Opera like you and the Spectra. Synergy Gold, I really only recommend if people need all the bells and whistles because it is so much more expensive than a bowling ball, but it's a great pump.
And I think to add to that too, because someone might say, well, they have the Spectra Synergy Gold portable. It's not the same thing. So the terminology, I mean, it's all advertising right there. It's not the same thing. You can't set your cycles. I'll be honest, I don't have it on hand. With this baby, I'm still on the fence. I don't know which breast pump I'm going to get with my insurance, because I always ask the community, because I have so many. You guys, what do you want from me? So I think what I'll do, if I can find that Hygenia, that would be pretty cool. I don't think I want to waste it on the SG portable, but we'll see. But just keep that in mind. It's not going to be apples to apples. Just because it's portable, it doesn't mean that it's nearly as effective as
and correct me if I'm wrong, I'd have to go double check, but I believe Hygenia is code compliant, which is another benefit of that pump. So there's some pump companies that market and sell bottles and bottle nipples and also get funding from formula, so that we call them WHO code, they're non-compliant. And there's some pump companies that are code compliant. So for lactation consultants too, it can be an interesting dynamic of what we're recommending based on the company and the quality of that company. And let's be honest, there's a money grab in pumps right now because insurance is paying for them. So you get a lot of there's a lot of really cheap, crappy pumps out there from other countries that are just rolling patents to try to make money. It's gross.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we're in agreement of the primary categories. Favorites are Unimom Opera, right? Spectra, Synergy Gold. For a lot of people, again, the Synergy S1 and S2 can get them where they need to go, depending on the person.
The Spectra S1 or S2. That's what you had.
S1 and S2, I think of as equivalent. One is battery operated, one is cord operated. But that's one that I find many people do very well on with the.
I think it's a great option if it's there. I personally am not a huge fan, but I know many are. So again, there it goes back to that, back to that. So if it's an option, suggest it.
Let's talk insurance, because a lot of times the option is the Spectra or the Medela or the Amida.
Yeah.
And of the Medela and the Amida, I would pick that Spectra.
Mm-hmm. Well, that brings us to our next topic. Worst primary pump. Well, that's Okay. Yeah. Oh my god.
I hate this pump. So the history of this is the original pump and style pre-2019, pre-2020 was a pretty decent pump. It was the OG of primary pumps. Almost everybody in the hospital got it. Medela is one of the oldest pump. I think Medela actually is the oldest pump company. And it was an open system, meaning you could see the motor if you took it out of the bag. And it was an open system, meaning milk could go into the tubing and get sucked into the pump. So Medela redesigned that pump in like late 19, early 20. And made it the pump and style with Maxfo, made it a closed system and closed the flanges as well to prevent milk from getting in. But for some reason, it cheapened the motor where it just doesn't have the oomph that the original PIS, which I now call the POS, the original PIS did really well. And it was because we had limited pumps really pre-2015. That was one of the original pumps that we recommended to almost everybody.
And there was nothing wrong with that recommendation. That even to this day, I mean, I know it's still a workhorse, and there's plenty of people that still do use that pump, and it's cruising. Like, there's no harm with it. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's no longer available. So if you do have it, count your blessings and hold on to that thing like a piece of gold, I guess. But unfortunately, I know we see this all the time, and it has that highly recommended name, the trusted name, which in my opinion is not to be trusted at all any longer. But yeah, I can go on a whole rant and waste everyone's time with that. And then my other one that I had said, the worst primary, is anything portable. No. Let me change my terminology. Anything wearable.
Anything wearable. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I did put portable in but I just ran through it. But anything that you're going to pop in your bra is, in my opinion, going to be another one of your worst primary options. I would never suggest that.
Other worse, the Lancino and the Purely Yours. Those two are horrible pumps. The Lancino pumps, all of the Lancino products, honestly. Other than the bottles. Love me a Lancino bottle with a pigeon nipple.
Yeah.
Love that. But I'm not a fan of the Lancino pump. I've seen that sabotage more supplies than not. It's a cricket. It doesn't do much. And then, the Purely Yours and some of those other pumps, they're just junky pumps.
Yeah. I have actually heard I forget who it was, an IBCLC, she had said, I'd never seen so much nipple damage like I have with a Lancino pump.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting comment.
Yeah, for sure.
Something that, all right, let me go. What we got? So we've got our worst, and now how about our best portable? So,
Beth, you want to go first?
If you'd like. Let me see what I wrote down. Okay, so my two best portables, and this is just based on my experience, my conversations with a lot of moms out here, and this is what I've come down to. So
I got some samples and I gave them to patients, so I don't have mine, but those are the two that I also recommend. Although my caveat with the Baby Buddha is if you have sensitive nipples, it is a strong tug. Or I've also found elastic nipples don't respond as well to it because they just stretch elastic tissue.
Yeah, there's no arguing that this pump, I mean, I've seen it dubbed the nipple ripper, and I mean, it's pretty legit. That's like very relevant. And I'll be honest, like I used this pump for 29 months between two breastfeeding journeys, so I can't dog it because it was really great for me. I really liked it. But when I had my last singleton, I took both pumps to the hospital, and I was really postpartum, and I tried to use this, and immediately I was like, nope, not happening. And even like a week or so later, I tried it again, and same response. Like I just went from loving this pump, which I see often in my DMs, like, hey, I love this pump, but I'm kind of looking for something a little less aggressive. This is the answer.
Yeah.
I would say,
for sure. Those are my top ones. Followed, honestly, I've had some pretty good experience with the Amida Maya Joy Plus. And it has to be the Amida Maya Joy Plus, not just the Amida Maya. But I have had some good success with patients on that pump, and that is Amita is a code compliant company. So I can't knock that one.
Yeah.
It's in the running of, I prefer pumpables first, Baby Buddha if there's no sensitivity or nipple elasticity, and then if those two are not options, then I'm like, well, if you're getting the Amita Maya Joy Plus from insurance, that can do really well for many people. It's not most, but many people
Yeah.
can do really well on that. And that one again has the dual suction and some other good features like that.
And no vibration.
I don't believe it has vibration.
No, yeah, definitely not. I mean, some say that the Pumpables Genie Advance has a slight bit of vibration, but again, for me being so sensitive to vibration, and
Yeah.
I just got done pumping. Now I'm 16 weeks pregnant, so I dried up almost immediately, but I was pumping up until that day,
Yeah.
and I was still using the Pumpables Genie Advance. So I think that was about 16 to 18 months of pumping, and I personally don't think it vibrates. The one thing I sure is the Baby Buddha absolutely doesn't vibrate. All it does is pull. And it pools.
So, and let's talk about why that is, right? So basically pump companies, they studied hundreds of babies with pressure manometers in the mouth and found that they suck at different rates and at different suction speeds, and that babies have this different way of stimulating the nipple. So when they tried to replicate how a baby sucks non-nutritively to stimulate flow and then sucks nutritively to pull milk, they basically found this range. Hey, human diversity, babies suck at this range of speeds and this range of suction. And they found that when they were just doing speed and suction, that some people responded and some didn't. So they added this vibration basically to stimulate the nipple to try to act more like how a baby does. So you'll have these camps of pumps that have the vibration to try to stimulate the nipple better, and then you have these camps of pumps that just straight vacuum suck.
Yeah.
And if you are one that likes the vibration, you'd want to pump with the vibration. But if you get one that doesn't have vibration, those are the moms that respond to the vibrating massagers, where they pop them in the bra to give themselves that vibration.
Yep.
And if you have people with nipple sensitivity, sensory sensitivities, overstimulation, they tend to prefer no vibration so that their body doesn't get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that's when those other pumps can be really helpful.
Yeah, that I can relate to literally everything you just said, because I'm in that boat. I think I didn't care for vibration, but oddly enough, people will say you don't like vibration, but you like lactation massagers. For me, there is a difference because it's on the breast itself, not at the nipple.
The nipple.
It hits completely different. And honestly, I didn't use the vibration in the massaging pads for the vibration itself. I used it as a distraction because I don't like the suction of a pump. Contrary to what many probably think, because I've been pumping for so long, but I really dislike it. But using those the lactation pads of any kind of vibration, it's a deterrent for my mind. So like takes me off, like, and then I can easily relax and have let down. So
yeah, for sure.
I completely agree. How about your
I'm gonna show it. You ready? 1, 2, 3, show it.
Okay. Oh my god. Yeah. And I don't have the other one.
Oh yes, that one. Yeah. Freestyle again was one I used the Freestyle with my first, and I loved it. It was it had the flanges that the Pump and Style with MaxFlow now have, but it was a great pump. But they remodeled it around the same time, and I just haven't found that people do really well for it.
In my review on it, I think I just say something along the lines of how it's there, but like it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
But it's not stimulating.
Well, and the reason for this one is because it has really it's got really different cycles and settings than a lot of the other pumps, and it alternates pumping, and it has some weird cycles to it. So I have some people, their report is that it can empty really well for some people, but a lot of people feel like they're being milked because of how it alternates with its settings, and it's harder to figure out what settings they respond best to.
I agree. That's how I feel about that pump. I didn't like the alternating settings. The only thing that I would say about that I had found in my experience, if I needed to pump and I had a short amount of time, I would use that pump because I responded so fast to it. And I wouldn't say it emptied me right away, but it moved a lot of milk really quick. But then because of the overstimulation, I became desensitized to it. So it stopped working for me. Yeah. It's just, that motor is wild. That I can't disagree with. Yeah. And then I don't know, I don't have it. Courtney has it. I have to get it back from her, but Babyation. It's considered a portable pump.
Yeah.
That thing is god awful. And I wish I had it here. It's not even a portable pump, but it's advertised as one. And I just wanted to mention it because I still get messages like, hey, have you seen this pump, as if it's something new. And maybe like ran a new set of ads, because it's not new, and it will ruin everything. It will you feel like a complete failure at breastfeeding. So
other portables I'm not happy with would be the Spectra S1. I'm not really happy with that as a portable. The Amita Maya, just the straight one, not really happy with. The Spectra Synergy Gold portable, I've heard it just doesn't have the oomph that the other Spectra products have.
The Amita Maya, you say isn't strong, but you like the Amita Maya Plus.
Yeah, the Amita Maya Joy Plus. Yeah,
I have something in my basement. I'll have to see which one I bought. So
there's some subtle differences.
Okay,
yeah,
that's good to know. I didn't know that. And then I guess like this is what everyone always wants to know, the best wearable.
Yeah.
Like the hottest topic, but I think we have to remind you that just because it's a recommendation as a wearable, in my opinion, it's still never going to be a recommendation as your primary.
Right. So basically, wearable pumps have much smaller motors. I mean, they're tiny motors compared to the other pumps just because of the housing and configuration. So they tend to leave milk behind, which done over time will drop milk supply. Mm-hmm. Most people find that they either have to pump longer on them or more often. And because of the approach of the nipple and breast to the flange, it doesn't stimulate every breast and nipple type. People with more cone-shaped breasts, smaller breasts, with larger, longer nipples tend to do better than those with flat nipples, larger, pillowy, softer breasts, elastic tissue, because you're trying to change the complete shape and orientation. So my bigger breasted ladies out there tend to complain that they just feel awkward and they can't get them in the right spot. And again, nipple anatomy really does make a difference with those pumps. And you don't have the flexibility of using Lactex or Pump and Pals or other shapes. You can use flange inserts, and there's a variety of those on the market, but those again are going to approach the pump different and change the specs of the pump.
I completely agree. I always say that that's the top question is, well, why doesn't the wearable pump, why don't I respond as well to this as I do my traditional flange setup? It just does not seat the breast like we want for that adequate flow and stimulation. And I think also another thing to add to that, and this is just mechanically speaking, these pumps aren't designed to be primary pumps. You're an exclusive pumper. Heaven forbid you buy, what's a good example of it? The Willow Go. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty confident 273 hours is what this motor is good for. Like 273 hours, it's going to get you through your first 2 months.
Yeah.
So, like it's just, you really want to pay attention to the motor life of some of these pumps too, depending on what your need is and how often you plan on using it.
Exactly.
Which is a really big deal.
They're great pumps for occasional on-the-go pumping, for sneaking in extra pumps. If you're exclusive pumping and you need to get one in while you're giving a bath or making dinner, but they're not good for like bringing in a supply or maintaining supply. Not the best choice.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. What would you say? What are your two best wearables?
My favorite, they're both Mom Cozy M5 and the Mom Cozy S12 Pro are the two that I consistently hear good reviews on. They have the soft silicone back. You can put a flange insert in them and they feel quite comfortable.
Yeah.
So those are my top two.
Yeah, I brought my M5. My S12 are actually on my counter downstairs because I was going to do something on Instagram with them. But I do agree. And the reason why I favor the M5 over the S12 Pro is simply because of design. Because this guy, you can't beat that, But the S12 Pro is slightly stronger in my opinion and experience. So, but I do agree. I love them both. And this pains me to say, but I have to because it's in my reviews and it's just me like keeping true to who I am. I do not like the company Willow, but I like the Willow Go. I did have success with that pump. So when asked, because it does come up, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna blow sunshine up anybody's butt, but I do like the Willow Go. I wouldn't say it's a top recommendation, but if you're looking for something that could be covered by insurance, I do like it. I think it's effective. I think it definitely has its flaws, but ultimately, it is a world of difference than the 3.0, which brings me right to my worst wearable, Willow 3.0. I hate this thing.
Willow and the LV, let's be honest, they're
Yeah.
Coke and Pepsi in the wearable world.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the most consistent damage and trauma to the breast from the LV, even over the Willow. And I see the most mechanical failure with both of those pumps, where people will pump on them for 20 minutes and be like, I have no milk. Where did my milk go? And you're like, you had the nipple wrong, the suction was wrong, you had the wrong size. And they're like, my nipples are, I mean, the pictures that I get on social media where it's like a red circle of
Yeah.
damage around the base of the nipple where you're like, that's from your pump. That's horrible.
Yeah. I think in my Willow 3.0 review, I've had hit or miss success with it, but ultimately $500 for either or, especially when you're talking like $189 for a baby Buddha or Pumpables Genie Advance paired with a collection cup where you can now maximize that pump in like different directions, or even going back to the S5 or the Mom Cozy S12 Pro.
Yeah.
You're looking at like what, I think $159 like on a good sale.
Yeah.
So it's Willow and LV, they were the leaders, right? Those are two options, and they're just like way over engineered, and they're paperweights, unfortunately. And when you're spending that much money, you're praying for the best, and then you end up like, I don't know, it just stinks. You get those messages like, I just spent $500. Oh, that's the pump I left downstairs.
I was like, I wanted to see your reaction to this one, because this one,
I hate that pump. It belongs in the garbage.
Okay. And the other ones are all of the ones that are a circle with the square rectangle motor on top. It's all the same patent number, right? Like the T3, the Pepita. I think Idaho Jones has one, right? They're all the little portable. They're all the little wearables that basically look like a circle with a motor on the top.
Yeah, like you're talking similar to the S12 Pro almost.
Very similar. Yeah, very similar. They're like anywhere from $70 to $120 on Amazon. They all look very similar. They have like a little rectangle motor sitting on top of the clear circle milk chamber.
Yeah. For some reason, I can't picture that Idaho Jones one. I can just picture their cups, it's the same mold. It has the same patent like everything else. Yeah, everything is like, I call them a dupe to dupe. Like it's just go on Alibaba and just who can you put your name on. But that Motif Aura, that actually, if you hold it up and you can see it's a pancake. Like, that thing is like the worst.
And the other thing is these flanges this is supposedly their flange, and it's like really hard silicone ring that has no give to it, with like this weird like velvety kind of feeling flange. And you can do different sizes, but it's not comfortable feeling to the breast, really not a good fit for finding the right size flange, really, for a good fit.
Mm-hmm. And that for me, like going back to that design, just goes right back to what you said about not being able to take in the breast. That one, when I tried using it, all I found was it just pulled my nipple. There was no stimulation. It was so uncomfortable. It caused me pain. 10 out of 10 hate that pump.
Yeah. I saw your review on it and I was like,
a little aggressive.
Because Motif just came out with a portable one as well. They have a portable. I'll show you, because I had a patient donate it. I had a patient that had like 6 pumps, and she's like, here you go. This is Motif's newest portable. It's called the Motif Duo. Mm-hmm. And it looks like this. I haven't tried it. I haven't played around with it yet, but I have a couple patients that I'm going to try it with. So
I reviewed it. Sounds.
Did you review this one?
It's shy. It's not gonna compare. Like when compared, because I would say that in comparison in size, it's right there with the Pumpable Genie Advance. They're just different kinds.
Yeah. I can't turn it off. It won't let me turn it off.
Oh, hold it down, maybe. Throw it against the wall.
I know. I'm like, it literally won't let me turn it off. That's hilarious. It's like, please pump with me, please use me, play with me. It's like that doll from Toy Story 3 where she's like, Gabby, please play with me. I'm lonely in the box.
That's so funny.
Nobody will play. Yeah, it won't turn off. That's hilarious. It won't. It's stuck on.
That's fun. Yeah, I hear it now. That's funny. Yeah, it's not. It stinks. You've got these pumps that have these good reputation, like the Luna you've shared. I the Motif Luna, it's I don't know which ones you've used, but that Motif Luna, that I don't know if you had the original or the second one, because they redid it.
They
Yeah.
did redo it. Yeah.
And I don't know. I think ultimately, like that, it's a good like baby sister to the Spectra S1, but the changes they made to it are tragic.
Yeah.
Like,
But
yeah,
it's interesting because I actually got the original one when I was still pumping for my second, and I brought it to work because I worked at the hospital, and there were 4 of us that were pumping, and I gave it to 4. There were 5 of us that ended up using the pump because we all had Spectras, and you can actually use the everything is compatible, and all of us had the same experience. It gave us half the milk in twice the time, and so we all had a pretty bad experience with it, but all of us needed a much stronger suction and a much faster cycle to actually move milk. So
I really wish they didn't change it on there. I did DM them. I was like, what do you guys do to this? And they're like, there's no difference. I'm like, don't blow sunshine up my butt. Like, there's an absolute difference. And it's detrimental to the design, because the original, I love the Motif Luna.
yeah.
If that was the same design, that would have been in one of my top primaries,
Yeah.
hands down. But I just don't like what they did with the new one. Just, I don't know. I have those two compared too in my blog.
Yeah.
Yeah, too much fun with pumps.
I know.
That's what
Right. Yeah. Well, this was
yeah.
awesome. So basically, if you missed it, go back review. We talked about primary, portable, and wearable pumps. There's a lot of pumps that we obviously didn't have time to mention today. The market's really been flooded since 2010, and the Affordable Care Act says that you get a pump with insurance. So there's more and more and more pumps that are coming out every day. I feel like that I'm like, oh, have you heard of the Bella Baby? Have you heard of the Mommy Easy? Have you heard of all of these other pumps? The only other one that I will mention in primary pumps is I really do like the Limerick Joy.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that. It is I have their love here. It's one of my favorite hand pumps. They have what they claim is one size fits all pump flanges. I find it's one size under 24 millimeters. So if you have smaller than a 24 millimeter, it works really well. But I wish they would do a redesign of that pump because it's just so big and retro. But they have, again, the dials where you can really hone in your particular speed and suction. So that is one pump that I do feel is underrated that does deserve mention.
Yeah, I agree with you. I used that pump prior to weaning, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Unfortunately, like you've said, it's a dinosaur. It needs a bit of a revamp. I didn't have so much not nearly as much success with that hand pump. I just didn't find it as effective. But it's a pretty cool technology. The Limerick Joy, the actual electric, is really neat. And I do agree. I require a 24 millimeter on one side and 21 on the other, and I had no issues with the compression of that one size all flange.
I wish they'd put that flange technology with a pump like the Pumpables. A nice small sleek pump, or something smaller. Like, I wish they would put it in this size pump with that flange technology where the tubing was a little bit more user-friendly, sleek, instead of quite as bulky, but it's the technology.
Yeah, and that tubing belongs in like a hood of a car. It's such a large outside diameter. It's just very industrial. So I just wish that we could just bring it back and redesign it and make it make it hackable, which I guess would take away the flange technology, but make it so we could use it with anything, and then everyone can enjoy everything about it, because it is a cool.
Exactly. It is a cool pump.
Someone collection cups. We could do that another day, because that's another like 35-minute conversation in itself.
Oh yeah, I feel like we could do a whole talk on nipples and flange sizes, elastic nipples, because I know a lot of people have questions about that. Unfortunately, I don't have time today, but elastic nipples, dense nipples, breast size shape. We could do a whole thing on flanges. We could do, which includes the cups, and then using these pumps of like how to use them, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's lots of topics. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do another discussion, because this was awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this live with me. It was phenomenal. Everybody out there, I hope you really enjoyed it. And again, not every pump is for every person. And if you have a pump that's working for you, ignore what we've said. And if you have a pump and you're like, this isn't working, that's probably why.
Yeah. 100%. Thanks, Julie. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.